This debate about whether or not the justices at the Supreme Court the number of justices at the Supreme Court should be capped, comes up every now and then. In fact, recently when the president nominated some 4 justices for the Supreme Court, questions were asked about why we need more justices at the Supreme Court. But what does the Constitution say? And making reference to what happens in the United States, can that also reflect in our local situation, especially because we derive the inspiration from the Constitution of the United States and the British as well? I have one person who lives the Constitution. She served both at the global and continental level and for the Republic of Ghana as Chief Justice. Sophia Akuffo is my guest. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us today.
My pleasure.
Before we get into the substantive question about capping of the number of judges at the Supreme Court, what is the role of the Supreme Court in our justice delivery system as a country?
The first one, which most people are aware of, is that it's the final court of appeal, which means that a case may start in the magistrate court and go through the ranks all the way through, and from the court of appeals there's another opportunity for appeal, and that is to the Supreme Court. But beyond that, the Supreme Court also has what we call original jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction in the enforcement of the Constitution and the interpretation of the Constitution. The normal, ordinary human rights provisions of the Constitution, those can originate, if you want to enforce it, you can originate the enforcement of your right, your personal right in the High Court. But if you want to enforce it, not necessarily because you have been harmed, but you feel that something that is going on and is being allowed to go on is harmful to the general populace, you could actually bring it to the Supreme Court. And if that's the first time, it will be interpreted and enforced there. If it has already been interpreted before, then it becomes part of our general law. So then you enforce it, you start it in the High Court or even in the Circuit Court, if it depends. Yeah.